Hey there, welcome to the Girl Go Global podcast, where faith and works are empowered. With every episode, we're embracing our multi-layered lives with faith, know-how, and grit. I'm your host, Dr. Jasmine, and I'm ready to go global with you. Let's get started. Welcome to the Girl Go Global podcast, where faith and works are empowered. We are around here stepping into our power. We are joining our faith and our works to live out our courageous lives for which God created us. Today, as we embark upon our end of the year activities, I want to thank all my listeners for just listening. Everyone who has downloaded, who has shared, who has liked, who has shared a comment, who has come up to me and say, "Hey girl, I've been listening. I so love you for it." And I want to thank you for just listening, because there's so many podcasts out there. You don't have to listen to me and the people that I bring on, but you are so engaged in our community, in joining our faith, in joining our works to live out our courageous lives. You are committed to the community. And so I want to thank you just for listening. And so as we embark upon 2023, I want to let you know that I have so many things in store for next year. I will be doing some live in-person episodes with some guests. We'll be introducing new topics and just kind of shaking up the format a little bit. And by the way, we will be rolling over to those YouTube streets and posting more content there. So if you've been listening and now want to have a visual representation about who you're listening to, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I already have a little bit of content there, but there will be more rolling out over the next few months. My YouTube channel is Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris. So just roll over, subscribe, like, and listen to some of the episodes and content that's there already. But first, today, I'm so excited to have with me Miss Sharon Sauls. She is a leadership consultant and speaker with over 25 years of entrepreneurial and executive leadership experience. She is the president of the Be-Led Group. She challenges, equips, and empowers leaders through her practical and transformative approach. From ministry to the marketplace, Sharon demonstrates an exceptional ability to combine biblical principles with corporate strategies. I'm so excited to have her join me. And by the way, this episode is sponsored by JLM Global Consulting, a woman-owned communications firm specializing in unpacking visionary ideas, assessing challenges, and providing that framework and training for persuasive, purposeful, and powerful written and verbal communication. So, if you are a business owner, author, industry leader who is looking to level up your content, your speaking effectiveness, roll over to jlmglobalconsulting.com and see how you can work with us. But first today, I have with me Ms. Sharon Sauls, who I would like now to introduce herself and tell us more about herself.
Wow, Dr. Jasmine, thank you so much. It's so good to hear your voice and to be on and sharing with the global girls. I love it. I love it. As you said, my name is Sharon Sauls. I, I am a family person, Dr. Jasmine, with a sincere love for people and seeing them grow in confidence and living out their potential. I love helping leaders in particular be better versions of themselves. I grew up in North Carolina and relocated to Maryland about 27 years ago. And I relocated for professional reasons. And after I got here, God tapped into my spirit of entrepreneurship. And I'm a woman entrepreneur. And also I serve as Senior Vice President for Chick-Fil-A in leadership development, in addition to owning my own company, the Be-Led Group, and teaching organizational leadership as well. I look forward to our conversation, but that's just a little bit about me. And when I think about ministry to marketplace, growing up in the church and then being able to share what God has given me to so many other people has just been a blessing. So thank you again, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much. So, Global Girls, if you are a boss babe, entrepreneur, leader in any realm, any spectrum, pull up a chair, grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab a blankie, and grab your journal and your notepad, because we have one of the leading leadership gurus right here And I'm so excited to have this conversation. There's so many directions and ways we could start out this conversation. But
Mhm.
first, I want to just jump right into a conversation about women in leadership and the impact on the culture today, because it's becoming the norm. It's even becoming the baseline. How about that? It's becoming normative, a new normal that did not exist many, many years ago. So tell me, what are your thoughts now about women in leadership and the trajectory moving forward?
Wow, wow, you're so right, Dr. Jasmine, to see how women are just rising, continuing to rise to the occasion. And I would like to submit, we've always been doing it, right? But it took some time for society and for others to see that we can be women, we can be ourselves, as the nurturing, loving, warm, all of the stereotypical or traditional characteristics of a woman, and still lead.
Mm,
And I love to see women in their femininity, as you said, being boss, right? Being that lady, that lady executive of whom commands the attention of the room by being herself. And now that we have gotten an opportunity to see women, to see ladies leading, killing the game, if you will,
mm.
by being ladies. Um, it has really, I think, encouraged, and we've seen it, young girls to know now that they can be vice president of the United States, right? That they
Mhm.
can be leaders of organizations. They too can be out on the forefront and leading and directing strategically organizations, missions, and all of that. I submit we've been doing it. God put it in us, but now it's really, really, really out to the forefront, and He's exposing how He's gifted and
Mhm.
given us what we've needed to be able to effectively lead. And it's exciting.
Oh, it's so exciting, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. And it's no
Mhm.
better time than now to be a woman.
No better time.
No better time. How about that? And so I want to just learn more about how you arrived or got into senior executive leadership at Chick-fil-A. And then you also lead your own organization. But I don't know any person who does not go to Chick-fil-A. And I'm so excited to personally know someone who sits in leadership in that organization, because representation matters. And not only that, the food is great, the customer service is great. How about that? So I'm sure that folks want to know, because particularly because you dropped that you are senior executive in their organization. I'm sure people want to know how you got into that role and what doors were open for you that led you there.
Wow, wow. Well, it's an interesting story because before being offered the position, I didn't even know such a position existed. Right?
Wow.
When you're going to restaurants and quick service restaurants, you're thinking the jobs are food.
Mm,
I don't cook chicken. I don't drop fries. I don't know how to make a shake. That's not what I do. And interestingly enough, and I want to say, Dr. Jasmine, when we walk the path that God has designed for us, and when we're intentional about seeking His will for our lives, doors do open.
amen.
And I don't want to take that. I don't want that to be taken lightly or anything, because I'm not so great. I would say to you, I happened to be in a Chick-fil-A having breakfast one morning, and I always notice, again, because my passion is leadership development, leadership coaching, wherever I go, I want to check out how the leadership is doing. And I was in Chick-fil-A this particular morning after a Pilates class. And I was watching the interaction of then what I thought was, the manager and the employee, and seeing how they interacted with each other, and just kind of watching how everything was working. So as I normally would, I saw a manager and I says, hey, listen, I've been watching as I was eating, and I noticed, and I shared with her, I noticed how they were interacting and how it seems to be a respect, a mutual respect, and just sharing. And she says, would you send your information to this person? I says, absolutely. Dr. Jasmine, I emailed from my phone that particular address and said, hey, I'm at your Somerville location in Annapolis, Maryland, and this is what I noticed. This is what I realized. Ladies, it's so important to give feedback. We never know how it impacts others and where others are going. But I gave that feedback, and I later got a call from that person, and that person was a VP of talent.
Wow.
And she says, we've never gotten such feedback before. I would love to meet you.
Oh my God.
And that's how it started. And when I tell you the rest is history, Dr. Jasmine, because they don't even have my resume to this day.
Wow.
But after having conversation, we talked about the biblical principles. We talked about leadership, how it's important to develop. And my mantra is every leader must be led in order to effectively lead.
Oh my.
We have a ton of leaders, but are they effectively leading? So that's my mantra. And we talked about that. Then she wanted me to meet somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And after about 5 people, I realized, oh my God, am I being interviewed?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And then the very last meeting, the gentleman said, I see why they wanted me to meet you. We have someone of whom is our VP of Leadership Development and Training, who has been awarded his own store. And we would like for you to consider the position. And so that's how that started. So when we talk about doors opening, when we talk about how does it happen, if we are true to ourselves, if we are who we are, and we're consistent, right? So you don't see Sharon here and she's one way and over there she's another way. But if you're consistent in your spirit as you share with other people, we never know who's watching. We never know who's listening. We never know what we say, the significance of what we say and the impact, and being led of the Spirit and being led of God to have conversations with people, to be in dialogue about certain things with people. We never know. And God will order your steps. Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Oh my God. I love your story. I got a couple takeaways from that. Okay. One being showing up as your authentic self.
That's right.
Meaning if you have never had the boldness to go up to the manager to give your 2 cents, but people may say, you're unsolicited advice, you're unsolicited thoughts, right? If you would have never done that, who knows whether you've ever received this opportunity.
Exactly.
And then, just being authentic, being noticed, and then having the follow through to follow up. My husband is a business owner as well, and he always says that the proof is in the follow up.
There you go.
You got to follow the lead. You go to a networking event, you take the cards, and then what you do? Put them in your car, put them in your briefcase, put them in your bag, and never follow up. And sometimes that follow up is more than an email. It's a phone call.
That's right.
I'm not getting on my soapbox. I'm loving this conversation already. Yes. Oh my goodness. So you got the position, off your GP, off personality, off your experience. I'm sure that you were very, very well spoken. I'm sure you sent a typo-free email. I mean, I'm sure you showed up authentically from all layers and all perspectives. And then you took the opportunity. So how long have you been with Chick-fil-A?
August the 15th of this year made 5 years.
Okay. That's great.
5 years. Yes. And it has been it's not even, I'll be honest with you, Dr. Jasmine, it's not even like a job. And
Mm,
as I said, my passion, my purpose has aligned, right? Some people's passion is one thing and they might not connect with the purpose, until after some time. And so I found that my passion for developing other leaders, as I spent time with the Lord and spent time in just quiet time and understanding who I am and what makes me tick and where I'm most effective and impactful. My passion aligned with my purpose, and once that alignment took place, everything that I do, that's the common theme, right? That is how I operate. So when I with Chick-fil-A, because I was already with the Be Led group and doing leadership training and leadership coaching and consulting, I was teaching grad school with organizational leadership and business management. Again, that alignment. So when Chick-fil-A came into play, it was just more of the same. It
mm-hmm.
was what I do. And so the underlying of biblical principles, as I share with the Be-Led group, it's the same thing with Chick-fil-A. And so it was just an alignment, because at that time I was not looking for a job, and I was very prayerful because I wanted to be intentional and purposeful in everything that I was doing. That's where I am in my life, right? You get to be 40, you're like, okay, I gotta make sure that everything I do makes sense.
Talk
And
about it.
and so and so for the last now 10 years, I've made, just making sure that what I'm doing is in alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really not like a job. And I love the people, they love me, and just seeing the development and the leaders grow and flourish and the operators do their thing. And, just to see that is very rewarding and humbling as well.
That's so awesome. So you have your own business, the Be Led Group. So I assume that you were, building your business prior to Chick-fil-A. Can you tell us more about your personal business?
Yes, absolutely. So, the B-Led group was incorporated in 2011. That was right on the heels of ending. I owned the Sky Neurological Rehabilitation before that, where we served patients of whom had neurological disorders and brain injuries, strokes, that kind of thing, where we did rehabilitation. It was a multi-center company in Maryland. Well, as we ended and decided that we would in that particular chapter of 10 years of serving, I just felt that passion for leaders and leading an organization.
Mm,
Having led Sky, the multi-site location, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, neuropsychologists, the doctors, the nurses, having the team providing that service. Well, from a leadership perspective, Dr. Jasmine, I'd humbly submit to you, I made some mistakes. There were some oversights.
mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot in that 10 years. And I thought, wow, man, from a leadership perspective, what are the areas that I could have benefited from help, right? Or from leadership? What do I need to do? So then I went back to school and started working on leadership and my doctorate in leadership, organizational leadership, and just really delving into that and spending time. At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I was a church baby, so I was doing church leadership. So it's kind of God was kind of weaving it all together, and I didn't even realize it. And so after we sold the neurological rehabilitation company, I began to pray and say, okay, where do I go? And that need, again, sometimes from our own experiences, birth what we are to do in ministry, what we are to do to give back. And so I began Be Led. And
Mm,
again, with that premise, because I was one of those, that leader that needed to be led, right?
mm,
And so that's how it started. And we had, um, I'm just thinking about how do we help leaders become more effective in their leadership?
mm,
What needs to be done in order to make sure leaders are not offended by it, not feeling insulted or anything like that, but just literally knowing, hey, you need some help, right?
Yeah.
You need to be led. And, we can have egos as leaders and we feel like we got it and we're doing it. And sometimes we don't know other people to know that we're struggling. So I wanted to find a way to respectfully share leadership training, leadership tools, leadership skills, leadership behaviors that would help lead people, because we need the people. And in order to effectively lead, we've got to understand how to lead the people. And in a lot of instances, that is where the challenges come from. There's a book that was written, Work Would Be Great If It Weren't for the People, right? And just really spending time, I thought, how can be led help leaders more effectively lead people who would then help us fulfill our vision? And that's kind of how Be Led got started.
That's good. That's good. So I want to get into a little bit of a conversation about your thoughts on effective leadership. Like, if you could give your top three thoughts on what an effective leader is, even what it takes to be an effective woman leader. Because I think personally, it may be a difference. Um, there may be some differences there, but I want to know your thoughts. Effective leadership. What does that mean
Well,
if you had to define it?
if I had to define effective leadership, it is the ability to align your leadership skills with your leadership behaviors to the extent that your leadership becomes what I term as a leader magnet, to the extent where people want to follow you.
That's
They
good.
love to follow you because your skills and your behaviors are in alignment. That's one. Secondly, how we think has a lot to do with whether or not we're going to be effective in our leadership. Do we have a team leadership mindset, or do we have that kind of that I am the leader, right? How do we think? If in fact we think about leadership with a team mindset, we can be more effective in our leadership and in leading people. Secondly, how do we see people, right? Do we see people as someone of whom will get the job done? Do we see people as that number of bodies that we need? How do we see people? Okay. One of the things that we share with Chick-fil-A and leadership is when a person walks in the store or come through the drive-through, no, this is not just a transaction, but this is a person, right? Every life has a story. So how do we see people has a lot to do with how effective we will be in our leadership. So
That's good.
number one, how we think, right? Our mindset as it relates to who's the leader, right? Who's leading this organization? Who's leading this church? How is leader? What exactly? Who's taking this organization, this team, this department, this church, this family to its next level, right? Is it me or is it us? That's number one. Secondly, is that piece of how we see them. And thirdly, to be effective in leadership is our ongoing our ongoing thirst, our ongoing desire for leadership development. As you know, things change, right? And as we grow and as people change and as people grow, we've got to keep growing. And so if we're not being developed on a regular basis and getting the leadership training and getting the development, then we're not going to be as effective. And when I think about a woman as a leader, we have great advantages because of how we're wired to lead. Sometimes, again, as you open the podcast so eloquently, women in leadership, as we rise even higher in leadership, yeah, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen between the leader as male and the leader as female. And I think, again, going back to those three, how we think about leadership, how we see people, and our desire for development. Even for the woman, we may look at, okay, how do we lead, and how do we balance that nurturer in us, not to come across as the mother, but to to have that professional to professional relationship,
That's
right?
good.
Because we have that, well, a lot of women have that natural, that nurturing characteristic about them until we begin. And sometimes we tend to err on the side of relationships more so than results.
Mm.
Okay. So what I've found, men leaders, for the most part, naturally are results focused.
Mm-hmm.
We tend as women to be a little more on the relationship focus, right?
Mm.
And so my challenge is having that balance. What is that medium where we have relationships on one end, results on the other end, and how do we bring it to the middle? Because you can't have all relationship, because sometimes when you have all relationship, the results kind of, there's a challenge there. And if we have our results, then sometimes the team doesn't feel cared for. So how can we make sure the team is valued, they feel cared for, they feel like they are people, and that we respect them, we honor them, and we do care that they have family. We do understand that every life has a story, and every day you may not be on your best. At
Mm-hmm.
the same time, how can we acknowledge that, give them what they need, but then motivate them to accomplish the result that we need to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's not easy. But what I have found with the women, we have to be more intentional to make sure that we have a balance and that we don't go too far over to the relationship side and then have a hard time getting the results. Does that make
That's
sense?
good. It does. It does. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not, um, and I keep going back to it because I think leadership development and leadership training to understand how to do it is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just learn how to lead when you get the position title. It doesn't happen that way. It's a process, and we grow into it through experiences, and we grow into it by spending time uh, in leadership development, in leadership training, to know how to have these balances and to accomplish the goals that we need to accomplish for the organization.
Mm. That's so good. So you mentioned about the lessons you learned through your previous venture business.
Mhm.
Um, but I want to kind of bridge those lessons learned with, as a senior leader in the Chick-fil-A organization, and also the leader of your own be led organization entrepreneurial path. Um, I want to kind of talk about the differences in leadership in corporate versus the differences in leadership as an entrepreneur, because I don't think people recognize that when you are leading your own organization, there is a different leadership lens that you have to take, particularly because you are the one responsible for the mission, vision, and values of your own organization. And I think when people step out of corporate or government to run their own organization, they may not be as prepared with the onslaught of leadership responsibilities from as an entrepreneur. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do, and you're so right. You're so right. And I've had the opportunity to experience both. Um, when with corporate leadership, you have the layers, right? You have the layers and the tiers of leadership. You have policies and procedures that have been established over years, that based on historical data or industry norms, and all of those things are already in play, right? They're already there for you. You're in corporate, and you have this unction to move outside of that and to do your thing. And so you soar to become an entrepreneurship, and you're excited. You're excited about it. You have the skill, and you're excited about sharing because you have the skill and you can provide the service. And I say this so much, Dr. Jasmine, a lot of times businesses and when we start businesses and become our own, if you will, our own leader, we don't really think about the leadership aspects of it, the management of it, the administrative pieces of it. We just know we're good at what we do.
Yep. And that's exactly what I want to delve into. So yeah, I'm glad we
Yeah.
spoke on this.
Yeah, we're good at what we do, but wait a minute. What are the pieces that need to be put in play here in order, infrastructure wise and behind the scenes, in order for me to be able to do what I love so well? And I say to people so much, whenever you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, stepping out and doing your own thing, find somebody who's been doing it. Right? Find somebody who's doing it, who can help you understand the pieces that you don't see. See, let me tell you, one of the things my dad's a pastor, and we used to talk a long time ago, and he said, Sharon, the easiest thing about pastoring is Sunday morning sermon, right? You're in your element and you're doing your thing. That's the easiest part. But let's talk about what you're doing at midnight, at 2 a.m. Let's talk about what you're doing on Saturday. Let's talk about what you're doing immediately from church on Sunday. Let's talk about the work that has to be put into it, and how long in others' experiences does it take to get to a point where you can even pay yourself, right? So there are so many pieces to that. And I say, whenever somebody come to me and say, hey, I'm thinking about launching out and starting my own thing, do you know somebody who's already doing it and they're successful? Do you know somebody who's already doing it? Have a conversation with them just to get some advice, right? Have a conversation. We're in a season now where coaching is at an all-time high. And let me tell you, Dr. Jasmine, if that was the case when I started Sky, 20 some years ago, I would be in a better situation, because I would have had that help of somebody who has that expertise, that experience, who's doing it, to be able to help me. Hey, have you thought about these things? You want to think about these things and put these things in place before you step out. And what I did, I was so excited with Sky. I wasn't a neurological, I wasn't expert in that, but I was excited because I love leadership. I met a person who was awesome, therapist who was awesome in neuro. My sister was a phenomenal nurse. I had what I needed to get licensed, to get started, and all of that. But I didn't do that homework that we're talking about, right?
That's what I want to,
yes. We got to do the homework, and we got to do the market analysis, and we got to do the plan. Okay, who's my target audience? Who will I spend my time with? What is my focus? Am I clear that this is what I want to do? We have some people who are doing a myriad of things, and so you don't really know, when you see them coming, you don't know if they're coming to talk about, their jewelry, if they're coming to talk about depression, if they're coming to talk, like we've got to have a focus, and then to be able to understand, okay, who can I talk to? Who's been doing this that can help me understand what I need that I don't see? There's so much to entrepreneurship that people don't see. And a lot of times businesses do not survive because we were great at what we did, but we didn't have the support, the insight, what we needed to make sure on the back end or behind the scenes we had the infrastructure that we needed, that we grew according to where we were at that time. Right. So there's seasons. And listen, Be Led Group was word of mouth. word of mouth until March of this year.
Okay.
So from 2011 to March was word of mouth. You know why? Because I knew with everything that I was doing, I I would not be able to respond to the demand back then.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So even I'm not saying don't go with it, but do some research. And this is what I learned from my days with the first company. Let me let me take this a little slow and let me just be realistic in my own capability, my own ability in the season of life that I'm in. And timing is everything.
Come on.
Timing is everything. And when we're thinking about it, sometimes, listen, I would call underground for 3, 4, 5 years before you really go out there because you're trying to make sure you have the pieces in play. But that's after I have learned and experienced and had some really, really hard lessons that I can say that now. So I would say to somebody who's thinking about starting, there's more to entrepreneurship than the service that you provide, than the product that you have. There's so much more to entrepreneurship than that. If in fact you want to be a sustainable, profitable business.
Oh my goodness. I'm over here amening because I'm a business owner as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is I'm on my second business,
Okay.
but maybe my third. I started out as a makeup artist.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
that was for fun, and then I would do weddings and things. This is back in the day when you had to get your makeup artist license to do makeup. Now everyone's a makeup artist, but this is
Okay.
back in the day when you had to get credentials.
Okay.
But I'm amening because I'm amening for myself because the Lord has been dealing with me about getting my infrastructure in place.
Uh-huh.
Um, more than just establishing the LLC, establishing that bank account.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
been dealing with me about. I have some assistants. Bringing on more. Also been dealing with me about just having conversations where I pay someone and a business attorney,
Uh-huh.
business tax lawyers, and all of
Mm-hmm.
that to
Mm-hmm.
give me information that I don't want to be searching for on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in a place where I need to get my workers' comp insurance set up, my commercial insurance set up. So it's just more than going to your state and local tax place to get your LLC. It's so much more. And I just want to encourage all the global girls out there, all those aspiring entrepreneurs to be ready to receive because these social media influencers and others who are posting about how much millions they're making, 6-figure boss days and all that, you got to make sure you got your taxes right. You got to make sure you have
Yeah.
documentation to pay all those t-shirts you selling. You got to pay taxes to your state. I mean, you just got to have all of that in play. You need your
Mm-hmm.
trademarks. It's just so many things
Mm-hmm.
that you
Mm-hmm.
need to have in place. And I'm so glad you're having this conversation because we're having this conversation because there are a lot of people out there who are looking to go from corporate into what they feel is a glamorous entrepreneurship adventure. And it is an adventure, but it's hard work and you need to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place to be able to receive those 6-figure days.
That's right. That's right. That's right. It just doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen overnight. And you also want to be sure, be clear about and be realistic about your resources. Be realistic about and if it's something that you want to do, you know, is it you know, is it ministry based? Is it from a hobby? Is it what you want your livelihood to be one day? All of that
Mhm.
you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about launching. And Dr. Jasmine, you're so right. One of the things when I first started with the neurological company, my cousin, who's um, a established business owner, says if you cannot afford an accountant and an attorney, you cannot afford to be in business.
Come on. I'm
Right?
just dropping all kind of $400 an hour, $250 an hour.
There you go. There you go.
Peace
And
here.
right. And then I want to put on top of that a business development coach or consultant
I agree.
to really help you, because if you do it on the front end, right? Get the foundation laid and take care of those things on the front end, then you're able to go out and do what you love, knowing that those things are taken care of and nobody can come back, like you said, for that, you owe this or you sell this and you didn't report that. And we see you on social media, but we don't have your tax ID, whatever. Like you don't have to deal with those issues coming back to you if in fact you work it on the front end. Put in the work on the front end so that you can really move forward in what it is that you feel like God is calling you to do. But the service and the product, that's the fun part.
That's the fun part.
That's the fun part,
But calculating
But
those deductions at the end of
well,
the year, that's the hard part. You need an
you
accountant
you are
and some
exactly
applications. You need to pay for services
you are
to help
exactly
you,
right. And
blend with your bank account and all of that.
exactly. And I just want to impress upon the ladies, invest in yourself. And
Mhm.
until you're able, right? Until you can invest in yourself, whatever that means. And you may be at a place where you think, you know what, I'm gonna get this $10,000 loan just for investing in myself and my business to get started.
Mhm.
Believing, trusting, knowing that the return on that investment is going to be so much greater,
Absolutely.
but invest in yourself, invest in your business so that you can make that difference and do what it is that you feel like God is calling you to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. This is such a great conversation. Such a
Wow.
wealth of knowledge has already been shared. I want to know from you. You've already talked about the faith. You've already shared your confidence, your boldness with regard to stepping out and just going up to that Chick-fil-A manager and say, "Hey, this is what I think." Right? You've demonstrated that you have the faith and the know-how and even that grit to reach your courageous life. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that this is just only the beginning. You have much, much more to do. But other than what keeps you full of faith? Other than what you've shared, is there something that keeps you grounded, keeps you full of faith in what you do every day?
Wow, wow. I would say, yeah, my support system, Dr. Jasmine. I grew up church baby, right? And grew up
Mm-hmm.
in the church, learning about faith, learning about how there's power in prayer, but you got to believe what you prayed, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna pray, you don't believe it. There's no need of praying, but you gotta believe in what you pray, and just to know that all things are possible. I grew up with that being instilled in me. In college, I had on my wall, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So just growing up in a family and having a support system with strong faith was instilled in me as a child. And as I grew older and became into my relationship with the Lord, personal relationship with the Lord, I began to see how, when you put your faith to work, how God honors and things do happen for you. So believing that God has charted my path, and
Mm,
even when times get tough, I say to myself, God, this comes as no surprise to you. You've already been here. You've already been here. And so I'm going to trust you
that's
to
good.
move forward, because although I don't really understand, I don't know what the future holds, I know that you are in control. And speaking that to myself, speaking that over others, right, just helps me to stay grounded. And watching God move in the lives of others, in the lives of myself, but watching God move, we can see it if we look for it.
That's so good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, if there are other women who are looking to get into your industry, whether it be leadership development or talent development or even entrepreneurship, what are your top two or three strategies that you would give to women who want to step into your industry?
Well, I would say um, continued just learn about the industry, right? You want to get into it, spend time each day on whatever that area is, I would also say it's important to find somebody, and we said this earlier, who's doing what it is that you're doing, right? To kind of understand, to share, this is where I am so far, this is what I've done, this is what my vision is, this is what my goal is. Any advice would you give me? I think, Dr. Jasmine, first and foremost, to find somebody who's already doing it, to be able to really think about that. If you're thinking about an industry of coaching, industry of consulting, as Dr. Jasmine said, you see it all over social media. You see it all over social media. So many doing it, but be prayerful. And my coach, I after listening and spending time, I just felt a connection in my spirit that she was the one that I needed to work with. But finding that person of whom is in it and is doing it to be able to help you. One of the things that I will tell you, this year alone, being able to scale my business, to be able to really understand how to grow it, because I sought out a business development coach who's doing it and who's successful with doing it. And I made the investment to learn what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? And it has made a tremendous difference.
Awesome.
Like you said, let's maximize our time and not spend a lot of time Googling and YouTubing and trying to learn it that way. Find somebody who's doing it. Find somebody who can help you chart your path and develop a plan. And then pray. I pray every day for discipline, because there's so many things that can distract us. There's so many things that can get in our way. But when we're thinking about time management, how do we, I won't even say balance family. I don't even know if that's the thing, like to be a balance at all, but just being able to know at what season is the priority. But just praying for discipline to know, okay, if this is something I want to do. And as we talk, it takes work, it takes focus, it takes intentionality to do it. And even this year, having a coach, and there were moments when she says, "Hey, did you do this? I didn't see that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I wanted to go with my sister to this. Okay, so how are you making up for that?" So just that being able to focus, and if that's something that you want to get into the industry, you want to tap into it. And I absolutely, consistency is key, right? So even when we talk about like, go back to Chick-fil-A, what do people like? Consistency. They listen, if somebody comes to Chick-fil-A and you don't, and they don't say my pleasure, guess what? We'll have people sending emails. I went there and it was in the Chick-fil-A way. They didn't say my pleasure. Why? Because it's been so consistent. And when you're not consistent, something's wrong.
Yeah,
Well,
you
if
notice
we
that's the
can,
first thing.
you notice it. So how about if you're consistent in what you do, then people can see, okay, I can rely on that person. That person is there. That person's going to be there. But consistency is key. And if you're not at a point where you can be consistent with whatever the service is that you're wanting to provide, or all that, because all of those things are looked at. When I share with when people, hey, I want you to coach me, I am going to social media to see, okay, what are they talking about? I'm going to LinkedIn to see what is the bio, to see where's the consistency. And if there are some inconsistencies, how do we work through that? Right. And what do we need to do? So we want to make sure, if you want to tap into the industry and you want to do well, and you want to attract others to what it is that you're doing. And in my case, coaching, development, training, that kind of thing, you really want to make sure that you're consistent, and not only that you're an example of what it is that you're teaching, right? You are an example of what it is that you're coaching. And that's the conviction that all of us have, right? We can help somebody so well, but are we doing it ourselves?
For sure.
And then of course, developing the plan. So I would submit, find somebody who's doing it. Keep studying your craft behind the scenes. Keep studying. Keep studying. I can't say that enough. And then find somebody who can help you, who's been doing it along the way. And be consistent. Be consistent in what you're doing.
That's so awesome. So, out of everything you shared, one of the things that I'm hearing from you with regard to your first interaction with Chick-fil-A, with regard to closing a business and starting a new one, with regard to taking this leap of faith to scale your business, how do you step into your inner courage to do all that you've done? How do you
Wow.
tap into that?
Wow. Well, for me, it's having meaningful dialogue, it's having positive communication, being around positive people, right? Like-minded people, understanding and becoming more self-aware of what are the areas of opportunity that I need to grow in, right? What are my strengths? Just really being in touch with myself and having a positive environment, a positive atmosphere taps into my inner courage, right? Being able to hear one of my clients say, "Hey, I, I, you know, I put this procedure in place, or I had this conversation with one of my leads or team members, and it worked." When I hear that I'm making a difference, when I hear that I'm making an impact, when I have a leader who's newly promoted to leadership share with me in getting ready on how to start to establish relationships with you, those of whom you're now leading, when I hear them say, "Wow, I'm feeling the respect, and we're getting some things done, and they're wanting to help me. Thank you for telling me how to do it. Thank you for those tips." It strengthens me. It motivates me like crazy. I'm looking for the next person that I can help. Right. Just knowing that I've made a difference, that I've helped that leader have a little more confidence when they go back to work on Monday. I've helped that leader understand how to address that tough conversation. I've helped that leader talk about, okay, if that's a conflict, let's look at it from this perspective. Those are the things that makes me even stronger, that motivates me even more to continue to do what I do. What I share, Dr. Jasmine, I am so sure that the leadership skills, the tips, the tools that I give to leaders, I'm so sure they work if they are applied, and if they are applied consistently. I'm so sure that they work. So when I share with leaders and they come back and they tell me, or I reach out to them to see how it went, it just gives me strength and motivation. And here's the thing: we don't see things, everything doesn't happen overnight. But if you really believe in what you're doing and that God has gifted and anointed you to do it, then I think about the scripture that says, "Some plant, some water, but God gives the increase." So
Mm.
whether I'm in that season of planting with that leader, or whether I'm in the season where I'm watering what was planted, I'm trusting and I'm believing and I'm knowing without a shadow of a doubt that God's going to give the increase,
Mm.
especially if that leader is intentional and he or she, again, have their thinking right, they're seeing people right, they're seeking out ongoing development. Oh, yeah, God's going to give the increase, and they are going to be effective, and they're going to continue to move to their next level and ultimately become better versions of themselves. I have no
Mm.
doubt about that. And that gives me strength, that motivates me, that causes me, I'm telling you, I wake up in the morning saying, "God, help me to see you in everybody and in every situation, and help me to be a blessing to every leader of whom I come in contact with."
Mm. That's beautiful.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm getting excited, so I promise.
Yeah, that was good to my soul this
Mm,
morning.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Wow, this has been so good, so encouraging. You shared so much. There's so much to unpack, even with leadership development. But we can't do it all here on the podcast. So
Exactly.
I hope you ladies, the Girl Go Global community, have been enjoying this content. I hope that you have gained some insights and to help point you in the right direction, and also point you back to Christ in a way that helps you become a better leader. So when I say, Sharon, what does it mean for girls to go global? What would you say?
I would say not to limit ourselves to only the people of whom we know.
Mm.
When we talk about reaching out and finding those of whom are doing it, we're not making friends. We're not in the business, if you will, of having our friends to do everything with us. When you talk about infrastructure and having assistance and adding people, let's not limit ourselves to just our contacts, right? Let's not limit ourselves to only those we know, but let's be open to use the tools that are available to us, to reach out and to connect with those of whom have like minds, of whom are able to help us help grow the vision or the mission that God has given us. One of the things, Dr. Jasmine, as I sat in in prayer and just asking God, what did He want me to do? I heard the Spirit say, Sharon, there are leaders of whom I need you to bless, of whom you've not met yet.
Mm.
What that told me is, okay, that word of mouth is people who know me or who've heard of me or know somebody who heard of me. So if He wants me to bless leaders who I've not met yet, that means I can't limit myself to only those of whom I know.
That's good.
So when I think about girls going global, it's, listen, let's open ourselves up. And yes, do we have our own isms and schisms, and we can be our worst critics sometimes, but go for it. Do it. Open yourself up. Use social media platforms to share. That was one of the biggest hurdles that I had to cross because, again, I just do better with the one-on-one, the know people that I know and going to groups and being invited. But sharing what I do and promoting what I do on social media platforms has been difficult for me. And I've really stepped out of my comfort zone. But at the same time, God is showing me that stepping out of my comfort zone and not limiting myself is actually elevating me. And so when I think about girls going global, hey, let's not limit ourselves, ladies. Let's not just think about who's in our circle. Let's just open up and just be open and step outside of our comfort zones to use the tools that are available to us to help to literally make that difference across the hemisphere. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast that is global for others to hear and others. So I appreciate the vision that you have. And even having the podcast, because it can go where we cannot go. Yep. And that's when I think about girls going global, let's not limit ourselves. Let's open ourselves up and let's let God be the big God that He is, in making a difference and impacting so many more people than we would ever be able to in our own right, if you will.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. So if people want to contact you, whether for coaching, just to connect or anything else, how can they do that?
Well, they can go to the website, thebeledgroup.com is the website. I am on LinkedIn, Sharon Sauls, Facebook, Sharon Sauls, Instagram, Sharon Sauls as well. And if you'd like to have a call, if you like to just talk, if you're having a leadership challenge or you're thinking about how to navigate leading and leadership or leading people, please give me, schedule a call. You can go to calendly.com /the Be Led group to schedule a complimentary call as well. So look me up on social media. I'm getting better. Look me up on social media or better yet, like I said, we can go to the Be Led group. That's BELED, thebeledgroup.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. This has been such a great conversation. I definitely think that we need to have further conversation about women in leadership.
Agree.
Oh my goodness, because there's so much to and unpack. So,
Mhm.
but for today, this has been the Girl Go Global podcast where faith and works are empowered. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We would love, love, love to hear more about how you are enjoying the content. And stay tuned for more content dropping in 2023. We look forward to connecting with you soon. Girl Go Global.